Okay, so this is in case you just need a quick review before doing the delta math. In the case that you feel pretty comfortable writing equations of a line, you can just get right to the delta math. So we're going to start off with, it says in questions 1 and 2, write an equation of a line in slope-intercept form. So as a reminder, slope-intercept form is in the form y equals mx plus b, okay, where m represents your slope, okay, and b represents your y-intercept. Okay, so in other words, what we're going to do is basically, okay, in question number 1 it says the slope is -5, so that's going to be m, and then your y-intercept is b, so 7 is b. Okay, we're just plugging into the formula above, so leave x and y alone, you get y equals -5x plus 7, and that's the easiest type that there is to it. Okay. In the next one, so it says the slope is 10, so that's m is 10, and then the y-intercept is -3, so that would be b. Okay, so you would do y equals mx plus b, so it would be y equals 10x. Okay, plus the -3, which would just be -3. Okay. Okay, so that's the most basic. I'm just giving it to you in a sentence. Okay, what we're going to look at next is what happens when you have it on a graph. Okay, just as a reminder, the y-intercept is what point crosses the y-axis. So like we can see that that's what I just highlighted for both of those. That's the y-axis. So the point that crosses that is going to be your b value. Okay, so right here. And how do I know which one to choose? It's just the y value. So in this case, b is 1. And in this case, b is 5, okay? Okay, to find the slope, it's rise over run. So this is when you do the graph, okay? I would just count up how much I need to move up and then count over how much I need to move over. So in this case, I pick these 2 points. I would count up 1 and then over 1. So up 1 over 1 would just be 1 over 1. So in other words, your slope in this one is just 1, okay? So now I know b is 1, I know m is 1, so I'm writing in the form y equals mx plus b, so it'd be 1x plus 1, or you could write it as just y equals x plus 1. It's the same thing. Okay, this one I'm going to figure out the slope, so I have this point here and this point here. I rise up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then run over 1. Okay, so in other words, the slope will be 5 over 1, so that would just be 5. Okay, and then b is 5, m is 5, so that would be y equals 5x plus 5. Okay. This one, it's when you're not given, like, necessarily the y-intercept, how I figure that out. Okay, here's the easiest way to do it. Okay, if you're given a point that's not the y-intercept, this is x, this is y, we can just plug it into this formula for both x and y and solve for b. So here's what I mean. I know m is -2, so what I would have is I would have y is 0 equals m is -2 times 3, okay, x plus b, and I'm just solving for b. So it'd be 0 equals -6 plus b, and so add 6, b would equal 6, okay? And so finally, my final answer would be y equals your slope -2x plus 6. Okay, same idea over here. This is x, this is y. So it would be y2 equals your slope 2 times 1 plus b. So it'd be 2 equals 2 plus b. So in other words, b would just equal 0 in this case. So in that case, you don't even need to include it. You can just do y equals your slope, 2x. Okay. Yeah. Okay, these two, now you're looking at the graph. So same idea. Okay, let's first figure out the slope. So I gave it to you. So it's, remember, rise. So this is your rise 2. Okay. Over your run is 3. So that's your slope. And then from there, this is x, this is y. Okay, I'm going to plug it into y equals mx plus b, so it'd be 5 equals 2/3 times 4 plus b. You are going to get a fraction, it's okay. So 2/3 of times 4 would actually be, that would be 8/3, okay, plus b equals 5. Okay. What I can do now is I can just take my calculator and subtract that. So in other words, I could just do 5 minus parenthesis 8 divided by 3. Click enter, and I would actually convert to a fraction. Okay, so it'd be 7/3 for B. Okay, and so what my final answer would be is y equals 2/3 x plus 7/3 B. Okay. This one, so same idea. You would do rise over run, so your rise is 3, your run is 2, your point is x comma y. Okay, and so what I would do is I would do 4 equals 3/2 times 4 plus b, solve for b. So 3/2 times 4 is actually, it's going to be 12/2, which is the same thing as, you can just think of it as 6, because 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay. Plus b equals 4. So subtract 6, you get b equals -2. Okay. And so writing the equation, it would be y equals 3/2 x minus 2. Okay. So that's the front page. I'm going to skip over 10 and 11 because that's what we're actually going to do tomorrow. But this next part says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line. So in this case, we actually do need the slope. Okay, so in that case, here's what the only difference is you're going to use. You're going to do the difference in y, so y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay. All right, so in other words, here's what I'm going to do. x1, y1, x2, y2. So the slope would equal -1 minus 2 on top, and then 1 minus, don't drop a negative, okay, minus -4. So on top it would be -3 over, that would be 5. That's your slope. Okay, and then from there, just pick a point, call x comma y, and so it would be 2 equals, so I'm solving for b, 3/5 times -4 plus b. Okay, and so that would be 3/5 times -3/5 times 4 is going to be 12/5 positive plus b equals 2. Okay, and so it'd be really that would be 10/5 over minus 12/5, so b would equal -2/5. You could just again plug that in your calculator, and so you get y equals -3/5, your slope, x minus 2/5. Okay. I'm going to try this one. It's the same idea. Call it x1, y1, x2, y2. So it'd be m equals, so you need your slope, 5 minus a -1 over 3 minus a -2. And so 5 minus a -1 would be 6 actually, and 3 minus a -2 is 5. Okay. Pick a point, so we could pick, I'm just going to choose the positive ones. Okay, so it'd be 5 equals 6/5 times 3 plus b, solve for b. Okay. And so what you would get is you would get 18/5 plus b equals 5. 5 is 25 over 5, so 18/5 would be minus, so it'd be 7/5. Okay. And so your final answer would be y equals 6/5 x plus 7/5. Okay. Alright, I'm going to skip over number 14 because that's what we're also going to do tomorrow. Yeah, and then so it says write the equation of the graphed line. So same idea, guys. You pick 2 points. So let's say I have this point here and this point here. Okay. Actually, I don't even need 2 points because I already have the slope. Okay. So in other words, your rise would actually be down 1. So it'd be a -1. And then your run would be 3. So your slope is 1/3. Okay, so this part here. And then this is x, this is y, so it'd be -2 equals -1/3 x, which is 2, okay, plus b. So in other words, that would be -2/3 plus b. And so that would be equal to -2. You would add -2/3, so this would be, sorry guys, -6/3 plus 2 would be -4/3 for b. Okay, and again, you can just plug that in your calculator. So combine slope negative 1/3 x minus 4/3. Okay. Okay, this one, okay, it says the equation, so this is the equation C equals 20H plus 10, represents the cost for C for hiring a gardener. Describe what the slope and y-intercept represent in the context of the problem. Well, H stands for hour. Okay, so here's what I would say is like the 10, which is the y-intercept, and this, like, again, you don't need to know necessarily, okay, for the lesson tomorrow, but it's just kind of interesting that, like, think about like your y-intercept as being your initial. So it'd be like, essentially you could write like $10 is the initial amount. Okay, and then when we talk about slope, okay, here's the way you can think of it. It's like something per something. So 20 would be your slope. Okay, so how would I represent that? It would be $20 per, and H represents hours, so it would be $20 per hour. Okay, so just a little bit of a context, but again, that's not necessary for the lesson tomorrow. All right, so I know that was kind of quick, but that's kind of an overview. I'll post this so you guys have it. But the delta math is just writing equations. You guys have the rest of the time to work on it. Okay, thanks.